Hello, and welcome to an in-depth exploration of the historical and mythological lore behind the personas wielded by the protagonists of the Persona series.
It's no war out there every day. You can't hide from me. You gotta pray for the roots, pretty cool, calling out in the face of this artistry. When your friends and boss look alike on the face of it, they miss the history, but they fight all the place in it. Yeah, they fight all the place in it.
In this video, I'll be focusing on the original characters from both mythology and history that each persona is based on, the lore behind said characters, as well as a brief look into how these characters were incorporated into the design of their persona counterparts. A small disclaimer being that I will only be focusing on the initial personas that each protagonist obtains, and will not be looking at any of the ones they unlock through story progression, so as to keep the video short as well as avoid any potential spoilers. With that out of the way, let's go back to the start of the series with the game Revelations Persona. In 1996, the game Revelations Persona was released, introducing us to our first protagonist, Naoya Todo, who while defending himself from a horde of zombies in a hospital, awakens to his persona, Seimen Kongou, a Japanese deity of protection. Seimen Kongou is a Rakshasa, which is essentially a demon from Hindu lore whose earliest mentions can be traced back to the Japanese text from the 7th century named the Dairani Jikyo. Seimen Kongou is stated to originally be a bringer of disease and suffering who would go on to rededicate himself to protecting others from the same hardships that he once spread. His name is made up of two Japanese words, Seimon, meaning blue-faced, and Kongou, which can be interpreted as diamond or deity in English. This can then be connected to the Hindi word Vajra. The Vajra is a weapon from Hindu lore that is wielded by the deity Indra, a being who acts as mankind's savior after killing a great demon that was obstructing the prosperity of humanity. This is possibly where the story of Seimen Kongou being a bringer of suffering turned protector derives from. Also, fun fact, there have been many similarities found between Indra and the Norse god Thor, with both being associated with thunder and both wielding weapons that return to them after being thrown. As for the Seimen part in Seimen Kongou's name, both mythology and persona depict him as a blue-skinned humanoid, which confirms that Seimen means blue-faced. This means that his name translated to English roughly means blue-faced deity. With his name out of the way, we can turn our attention to the three monkeys that he holds, with one wearing a blindfold, another with a mask over their mouth, and the third wearing headphones. This is clearly a reference to the traditional Japanese proverb, see no evil, speak no evil, hear no evil, which is known as the Three Wise Monkeys. This use of the Three Wise Monkeys stems from Seimen Kongou's adoption as a deity into Taoism during the Kamakura period, a period which spanned from the late 12th to early 14th century. His adoption into Taoism revolved around the cult of Koshin, a religious belief in Japanese culture that on the eve before the year of the monkey, it was likely to have your life ended prematurely. Thus, the people would gather the scrolls of Seimen Kongou to celebrate and would then stay awake all night in front of statues of the Three Wise Monkeys to prevent the supposed premature deaths. Another fun little tidbit is that the Three Wise Monkeys do have names, which means that Seimen Kongou's monkeys technically also have names. Those names being Mizaru, Iwazaru, and Kikazaru. Next up, we have Persona 2 Innocent Sin. Originally released in 1999, Innocent Sin has us follow our new protagonist Tatsuya Suo, who while saving a kidnapped girl from a gang boss, awakens to his persona Vulcanus, the Roman god of fire.
Fear not, take my hand! I am thou, thou art I. From the sea of thy soul I cometh, the bearer of the inferno that burns away impurity, Vulcanus!
Vulcanus is from Roman mythology and is said to be the god of fire, volcanoes, deserts, metalwork, and the forge. His constructive and destructive control over fire made him an object of worship, where people would make bonfires and sacrifice small animals to be consumed by him in the place of humans, in the hope that Vulcanus would protect them from events such as wildfires and volcano eruptions. Within Persona 2 Innocent Sin, Vulcanus appears as a humanoid clad in metal armor, with flames erupting from exhaust on his shoulders, as well as featuring a pressure gauge on his chest, clearly exhibiting Vulcanus' roots in the forge and metalwork. The true origins of Vulcanus are unclear, as the earliest mentions of him can be traced back to a fragment from a Greek pot dated to the 6th century BC, a time where the city of Rome was still in its infancy and most of Italy had yet to start moving towards a more unified society, with most of the nation's population spread across different settlements. Due to his ancient origins, the true meaning behind Vulcanus' name is debatable, with the answer that Roman traditions maintain being that it was derived from the Latin words fulgur and full moon, which in English translates to lightning. However, within Roman culture, it can be interpreted to be connected to flames, as there was a strong connection between fire and lightning within their culture. Another proposed explanation for his name is that it is derived from the Cretan god of vegetation Vulcanus. Vulcanus is a god worshipped on the Greek island of Crete, which is located just south of Greece. This geological proximity to Italy, as well as his similar name, is the only real reasons why a link between the two was made. However, due to the two not sharing any similar powers or stories, it is unlikely that this is the source of his name. Within mythology, Vulcanus is the son of Jupiter and Juno, who are the king and queen of the gods. Being the son of the king and queen of the gods, Vulcanus was expected to be very handsome. However, upon his birth, his mother Juno was horrified by his unnatural red skin and small size, causing her to hurl Vulcanus from the top of Mount Olympus into the sea, where the sea nymph Thetis would find and adopt him as her son. Vulcanus would lead a happy childhood and would eventually learn that he had the ability to control fire, and it was with this discovery that Vulcanus would become one of the greatest blacksmiths in all the lands. Juno would eventually discover who her son had become and demanded that he return to her. However, Vulcanus refused and instead sent her a beautiful gold-plated chair as a gift. Juno was delighted with this gift and attempted to sit on it when suddenly the chair triggered a trap that Vulcanus had laid, tying Juno to the chair, unable to escape. Eventually, Jupiter would bargain with his son by offering Vulcanus a beautiful wife in return for Juno's freedom, which Vulcanus would agree to, leading to him marrying the Roman god of love and beauty, Venus. Bringing us into the 21st century, we have 2000's Persona 2 Eternal Punishment, the sequel to Innocent Sin. Set in an alternate universe where you play as our next protagonist, Maia Amano. Maia was a character who was originally in Innocent Sin that now fights alongside the alternate version of our last protagonist, Tatsuya Suo. After walking into the scene of a murder, Maia is attacked by the culprit. That's when she awakens to her persona, Maia, the Greek goddess of motherhood. Within Greek mythology, Maia was born in Arcadia as the daughter of the Greek titan Atlas and the nymph Pleione. Maia is also the mother of Zeus's child Hermes, the messenger of the Greek gods. As the goddess of motherhood, Maia would raise and care for many infant gods and heroes, with some of the notable examples being Dionysus, the god of wine and ecstasy, as well as Arcus, a hunter who would become the king of Arcadia. As for the origin of her name, Maia is the Greek word for midwife, which is a woman who cares for mothers and their newborns. Maia would also go on to marry the Roman god of fire Vulcanus, who you know is the persona of Tatsuya Suo. Now you may be wondering how Maia, a Greek goddess, can be married to a Roman god. Well, Maia is one of many dual entities, existing in both Roman and Greek culture with slight variations. The existence of dual entities was a way to intertwine and unify the Roman and Greek cultures, as both cultures were geologically located close to one another, which led to the trade of goods and culture. This Roman mythology version of Maia was still a caregiver and mother figure to many gods, however she was more focused on the general idea of growth. With on top of overseeing the growth of gods and man, she also watches over the growth of animals and plants. As for her marriage to the Roman god Vulcanus, their relationship would likely stem from Vulcanus' powers of the forge and Maia's powers of growth, aligning with the theme of creativity. One final fact about Maia is that the month of May is named after her due to her association with growth, and the start of May marking the end of spring and beginning of summer, a time of year where animals and plants alike bring and develop new life. Maia's depiction in Persona 2 Eternal Punishment is that of a woman wearing a pink kimono-like outfit with bright red shoes and hair as well as a green visor. Maia's origins as the goddess of motherhood can also be seen in her design with her graceful pose and motherly aura, and this can be especially showcased in her depiction on the official box art. After a 6-year hiatus, the series was revitalized with the release of Persona 3 in 2006, with our next protagonist Makoto Yuki being introduced. Persona 3 is also the first of the Persona games to have enhanced remasters made after its release that add extra content that wasn't present in the original, with Persona 3 receiving 3 different versions, these being 2007's Persona 3 FES, 2009's Persona 3 Portable, and 2024's Persona 3 Reload. I bring these up because in 2009's Persona 3 Portable, we are introduced to the female protagonist Kotone Shiomi, that the player can decide to play as over Makoto. Makoto and Kotone in their respective playthroughs both experience the same events in the place of each other, with the both of them being attacked in the middle of the night by a monster known as a Shadow, forcing them to awaken to their persona, the legendary Greek musician, Orpheus.
Here goes.
Orpheus is from Greek mythology and is depicted as a lyre-playing bard who could charm all living things with his music, with his earliest mentions being traced back to a 2-word poem from the 6th century BC that states Onomacleton Orphan, meaning Orpheus famous of name. The meaning of Orpheus's name is a topic of debate, with one of the proposed answers being from a writer of the late 5th century who believed that it was connected to the Greek term Oriaphonos, meaning best voice. This answer is connected to Orpheus's absolute power over music, with him being considered as the greatest of all poets and musicians, earning the name the Father of Songs from the Greek poet Pindar. Greeks of the classical age also recognized his power and would say that Hermes may have invented the lyre, but Orpheus perfected it, with his music and poems being so powerful that not even the trees or rocks could resist his charm. Another proposed answer to the origin of his name is that it is involved with the ancient Proto-Indo-European language family that dates back to before the 25th century BC. The word in question, after being translated to a modern linguistic notation, is this. It can apparently be roughly pronounced as Horpos, and some of its translated meanings are orphan, slave, and to change allegiance. It can also be related to the Greek word orphny, meaning darkness, which can then be connected to the Latin word orphanos, which when converted to modern English becomes orphan. Within Greek mythology, Orpheus is a son of Eros, the king of the ancient region Thrace, and his wife Calliope, a muse who presides over eloquence and poetry. While still living with his mother, Orpheus would meet Apollo, the god of music, and Apollo would gift Orpheus a golden lyre and teach him how to play it while his mother would teach him how to sing. Orpheus's most famous story is of how after the premature death of his wife Eurydice, he was able to travel to the underworld and with his music soften the heart of Hades, the god of the dead. Hades would then allow Eurydice to return to Earth with Orpheus, on the condition that he should walk in front of her and mustn't look back until they had left the underworld. However, upon nearing the top of the underworld, Orpheus in his eagerness turned to his wife, causing her to vanish forever. Within Persona 3, Orpheus is depicted as a robot-like humanoid that wields his famous lyre as his weapon. However, although the two protagonists share the same persona, Orpheus's design does differ somewhat between Makoto and Kotone, with Kotone's Orpheus being female with long hair, a warmer colour palette, and a heart-shaped lyre.
We are living our lives.
Only 2 years after the release of Persona 3, we get our next mainline entry into the Persona series with 2008's Persona 4, introducing us to Yu Narukami as our new protagonist. We follow Yu into a strange realm inside a TV where he encounters a mysterious bear who wants to help Yu in discovering why people keep going missing. However, while in this TV realm, Yu is attacked by a shadow, forcing him to awaken to his persona Izanagi, the Japanese god of creation.
I am thou. Thou art I. The time has come. Open thine eyes and call forth what is within.
Izanagi is from Japanese mythology, with him and his sister Izanami being said to be the deities who control both life and creation, who are also the last of the 7 generations of deities who formed after the creation of the heavens and earth. Izanagi's earliest origins have been traced back to his name being given in the Kojiki and Nihon Shoki, 2 chronicles from the early 8th century. Within these 2 texts, his name is presented as Izanagi no Makoto, meaning Izanagi of life. The name Izanagi itself is believed to be derived from the old Western Japanese word Izanao, meaning to invite, with the gi part at the end of Izanagi being a suffix that indicates masculinity, which means Izanagi can be translated as the male who invites, with his full title Izanagi no Makoto meaning the male who invites life. As for his sister Izanami, the mi in her name is a suffix for femininity, which means her name simply translates to the female who invites life. With his name out of the way, we can delve into Izanagi's portrayal within Japanese mythology. As mentioned before, Izanagi and his sister were the last of 7 generations of deities that manifested after the creation of heaven and earth, as well as the original 5 gods. These 5 gods instructed Izanagi and Izanami to solidify the shape of the earth, with the earth in Japanese mythology originally resembling a liquid that floated through the cosmos, requiring it to be churned into a physical form. To complete this task, Izanagi would use the Ame no Nuboko, a special spear-like weapon that is often depicted as a Japanese naginata, and would then create the first island Onogoroshima. Upon creating this island, Izanagi and Izanami would create a palace in which they would reside, and it is within this palace that they came to the realization that they must procreate, as this was their purpose as the deities of life. Although before this, they devised a marriage ritual where after walking around a pillar within the palace, Izanagi would greet Izanami. However, upon enacting this ritual, Izanami mistakenly spoke first, when it was intended that Izanagi would lead. Nevertheless, their union went through, which led to the birth of their first child, Hiruko, who ended up being considered imperfect as Izanami's blunder during the ritual had led to Hiruko being born without any bones. Due to this imperfection, Hiruko was set adrift by his parents in a boat made from reeds, where he would eventually wash ashore and become the god of fishermen and luck, Izanagi and Izanami would repeat their ritual, this time as it was planned, leading to the successful birth of the 8 islands that now make up the Japanese archipelago, in which the two would populate with the various deities that inhabit them. Unfortunately, the birth of the fire god Kagutsuchi left Izanami injured and would eventually die from her injuries. This event left Izanagi stricken with grief and rage and would kill Kagutsuchi, leading to the creation of more gods from Kagutsuchi's blood and Izanagi's tears. Within Persona 4, Izanagi is a metal mask-wearing humanoid who has belts protruding from his head, as well as sporting a dark jacket that is covered in belt buckles. The only real connection to his mythological origins in this design is his wielding of his naginata Ame no Noboko as his weapon. Finally, we arrive at our latest Persona projecting protagonist, with Ren Amamiya, from the 2016 game Persona 5. Being released 8 years after the original Persona 4, Persona 5 has us follow Ren Amamiya, who has been falsely accused of assault and forced to transfer to a new school, where on his first day after meeting a boy named Ryuji, he accidentally stumbles into another realm where he and Ryuji are then captured by a castle-ruling dictator. After being captured, Ren and his new friend Ryuji are about to be executed when he awakens to his persona, the legendary phantom thief Arsène.
Very well. I have heeded your resolve. Vow to me. I am thou art I. Thou who art willing to perform all sacrilegious acts for thine own justice. Call upon my name and release thy rage. Show the strength of thy will to ascertain all on thine own, though thou be chained to hell itself. Execute him.
What was that? You desire to be killed that much? Fine.
Arsène is the Persona universe's portrayal of the phantom thief Arsène Lupin, who is a fictional character created by the 20th century French writer Maurice Leblanc. Arsène would feature in 17 novels and over 30 short novels written by Leblanc, with Arsène originally being depicted as a French man who would wear a suit with a monocle and top hat, who was also a master of disguise. The origins of Arsène Lupin's name are possibly derived from the Latin word lupinus, which means of a wolf. And with wolves often in folklore being perceived as cunning and clever, this is a likely answer. As for the Arsène part, it is simply a common French male name, which means if we take our knowledge on the origins of the name Lupin, we can roughly presume that Arsène Lupin translates to Arsène the Wolf. Arsène's occupation was that of a phantom thief, a thief who was traditionally characterized as having outstanding charm and manners, and would steal not for monetary gain, but rather for the thrill of stealing itself, with them only targeting wealthy people that are usually depicted as being morally corrupt. This occupation can also go by the title of Gentleman Thief, as well as the cruder version being Gentleman Burglar. Arsène would follow this archetype in all his adventures, with him using his mastery of disguise to blend in and steal right from underneath the noses of his targets. On some of his adventures, Arsène would find himself as a rival to the great detective Sherlock Holmes, whose intellect was depicted as an equal to Arsène's, with the two often engaging in battles of wits where Sherlock would try to unravel Arsène's schemes of the thief and catch him, only for Arsène to always escape. The two shared a mutual respect for one another, which could not be said about their authors. Sherlock Holmes' author Arthur Conan Doyle did not approve of Leblanc's unauthorized use of his character within Arsène's stories, which led to legal action being taken which caused Leblanc to rename Sherlock Holmes to Herlock Sholmes within his stories. This name change allowed Leblanc to continue using the character in his novels at the displeasure of Doyle. Although he would usually go on adventures with a realistic setting, Arsène would also from time to time take part in stories with fantastical elements, with some notable examples being the novel The Island of 30 Coffins, which featured a magical godstone that could both give and take life. A Fountain of Youth was also featured in the story The Woman with Green Eyes, which leads to the novel The Comtesse of Cagliostro, that featured Arsène's arch-enemy and lover Josephine Balsamo. Josephine Balsamo was a fictional character who was at some point married to Napoleon, but had achieved eternal youth, allowing her to survive for well over a century to finally fall in love with and fight Arsène. Arsène's design in Persona 5 has him as a humanoid wearing the attire of a Victorian gentleman with an absurdly tall top hat. He also has large black wings, as well as his face being a mask-like design, calling back to Arsène Lupin's mastery of disguise. And there you have it, all 7 of the Persona Protagonist Personas. This video was made from my fascination of both history as well as how that history is preserved and remastered for a modern audience, as well as my fondness for the Persona series. The Persona series and its older brother the Shin Megami Tensei series have done an excellent job at making these ancient characters from mythology and folklore engaging to a modern audience, with their cool redesigns and little lore tidbits littered throughout the games, making people like myself look into their fascinating origins. Thank you for watching, and I'm hoping that this video was the more history-focused Persona video that some of you may have been looking for.